I'm Gil Alexander. Welcome to the Mirage Sportsbook. This is Behind the Book. Welcome to the Behind the Book online sports show. I'm Gil Alexander, host of the Beating the Book podcast, live from the Mirage Sportsbook here in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada, on the Strip with my friend, the VP of Race It and Sportsbook for MGM Resorts International, Jay Rude, playing hurt today.
Playing hurt, yeah, but the great ones do.
The great ones just rough it through. By the way, our intro, like nothing was strange about that at all.
Yeah, no, my girls will love that their dad is in a mannequin challenge.
That's right. That was outstanding. Today, of course, college football, pro football, we're going to talk about that. And then at the end of the show, Jay, if you will indulge, we'll go over, some sports betting terms that you and I understand, but maybe is lost on some of our more novice bettors.
Some specific lingo, yeah. Are we going to talk about how we still suck at making picks?
We should probably mention that from the outset. We are now, and I'm going to do the math on this. Documented 3 weeks, 2 picks total. That's 0-6.
Yes.
Wow.
Somebody's getting rich if they
Again,
are going against us, that's for
right.
sure.
It's a public service. Just fade us, you'll be good, and we'll have some picks at the end of the show as well.
Yeah. We're going to talk about how beat up I got up last week, too. I mean, public really got a good piece of me last week.
What was your worst outcome last week?
In college, it was Washington, and the over was by far probably the worst college game we had all year. It was a late game. It was parlays rolled into it. And then the Cowboys was bad for us, and the Saints. They were probably 1 and 1A, if anyone knows horse terms.
And the Colts didn't help you a little?
They helped a little bit. They took the sting out, but it was still a pretty ugly day.
With their win against the Packers, of course. Well, since you mentioned the Huskies,
yes,
why don't we start there with college football?
Nice segue.
Thank you. Probably, Jay, the biggest single college football game from a fan perspective this week. The number 4 Washington Huskies that you just talked about. Gives you a chance to redeem yourself here, or have the books redeem themselves, I should say. Number 4 Huskies hosting USC. USC ranked 20th, and UW favored by 9.5 in this game. And I guess really the knock on UW, if there is one, is that they really haven't played anybody. They played Utah and really relied on a late punt return to get that win at home. Now they find themselves again 9.5-point favorites against USC. Jake Browning has been sensational for UW, 34 touchdown passes, 3 picks. Sam Darnold, ever since being inserted into the lineup for USC in week 4, pretty good season himself, 20 touchdowns, 4 picks. What do you see here? A lot of great matchups. What are you going to need? Are you in the same position as you were last week?
This is a great game because actually both teams have been heavily backed by players over the last 3 or 4 weeks as USC has finally sort of found their stride again, and they're putting up good offensive numbers, and their defense is playing like a USC defense should be playing. So this is a great game. It's a big number, although the team that does have the best offense is Washington. They'll be at home. Like you said, Browning, 34-3. How is he not even getting a whiff of Heisman consideration?
Amazing.
With the many pass attempts as he has and only have 3 picks. He might have a couple coming out of this game because, like I said, the USC defense does look really good. But I think overall we're probably going to need the dog in this a little bit, which I'm not too upset having to root for USC in that defense, although Washington has been exercising scoring at will this season, and I think it might get slowed down just a little bit, just enough so that the 9 comes into play.
You mentioned the Heisman. Folks can come down to the Mirage and all your properties here on the Strip and bet for the Heisman still?
No.
They can't.
Last week after Lamar Jackson's performance, we took it down.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's such a prohibitive favorite that it's off the board.
Off the board.
Wow, okay. UW, for them to get it done here, either not only a win, but to cover the 9.5, they're going to have to rely on that defense, giving up just 5.6 yards per pass, which is 5th best in college football, giving up just 17 points a game, which is 11th best in college football. But again, haven't really played anybody. This will be a real big test for them.
For both of them.
With apologies to Utah, the Utes. That's the one team they've really played. Good competition there. Let's go to pro football, Jay. This is where you and I have really been poor in our picks.
Absolutely.
But we'll try to tackle some here and make it better for the average bettor who comes in. Let's start with a day game, and let's go to the big board, and let's just sort of cherry pick the Broncos and the Saints. The Saints right now, and this has moved since we've sat here. This was Saints minus 1.5 about 5 minutes ago. It's now Saints minus 2. Again, hasn't moved to a key number yet. But it's interesting because the Broncos just a few weeks ago considered one of the great teams in pro football. They've fallen on some hard times. They're 6-3, famously beaten by the Raiders pretty handily on Sunday night. It wasn't even as close as the score indicated. The Saints go into San Francisco. I don't know how much we can read into the fact that the Saints blew them out, but in the process of blowing them out, the Saints also managed to give up almost 500 yards of offense, getting almost 600 yards of offense themselves. So not exactly one of the more convincing wins if you're giving up that many yards, and the Broncos certainly a good football team.
Yeah, and I mean, the Broncos, been living and dying the last couple of years by their defense, and the defense is not getting it done because they can't get any help from their offense right now. So I think this is going to be a game where the public sort of has backed off of the Broncos because they're not getting in the cashier window with them. And the Saints just somehow are getting it done, even though they're giving up a ton of yards. These games are really high scoring from most of the Saints games recently. So, like you said, the number's on the move. This could go to 2.5 because I think there's not a lot of confidence in the Broncos right now.
Will it get to 3 in your opinion?
It would have to be some pretty significant one-way actions steadily through until kickoff to get to 3. But, we'll see. Trump won.
That's true.
Anything could happen.
Anything could happen. But if you like the Broncos, maybe wait towards the end of the week.
Yeah, if you're looking for the Broncos, and again, I'm mostly wrong on these picks as of late, but I think that if you're looking to take points with the Broncos, you might get 2.5 right around the weekend for sure.
Okay. Afternoon game, or actually, let's go to one of the afternoon games. Cowboys and Steelers, these teams have played 3 Super Bowls against each other.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 10, Super Bowl 13, Super Bowl 30, not one
Epic
many
games.
remember. The Steelers won the first 2, the Cowboys won Super Bowl 30, but even that's 20 years ago. And now you have a Cowboys team, 2.5-point dogs going to Pittsburgh, which is fascinating because the Cowboys are 7-1. Dak Prescott, of course, doing his thing as quarterback of the Cowboys. Doesn't really seem to be a controversy right now. No one's rushing Tony Romo back.
Right.
Cowboys beat the Browns last week, but they're winless, so can't read too much into that game. But they're dogs at Pittsburgh. Steelers had Big Ben back for the first time from his injury last week. They go into Baltimore and really kind of get beat pretty handily, even though cosmetically the score doesn't look that bad. But yet Pittsburgh's a 2.5-point favorite here. It's an interesting line.
Yeah, I mean, when you play in Pittsburgh, I mean, they have a great home field advantage. Their fans are going to show up for the game. That's going to be, just an electric game. But you do have the Cowboys who I can't believe they haven't been dubbed the dynamic duo yet, because these two guys are really, leading the way. I mean, it's a rookie of the year tie right now between these two guys, and they're playing really well. And I'm really surprised that this number is still -2.5. I thought this number is going to shift hard towards Cowboys. I think it will with the public, but I think the sharps are probably going to keep the number balanced because they're going to be laying Big Ben on his second game back from an injury layoff. They got the good running game. Pittsburgh coming off a loss has got a great record. There's a lot of things in the mix for the Pittsburgh side to like. So we'll see, but I think the public is going to be squarely on the Cowboys.
Squarely on the Cowboys.
Yes.
I love Pittsburgh here, giving less than 3 because I think this is one of these games where Pittsburgh, this is what they do. They play down to their competition. They play up to their competition. I could just see them showing up for this game. But as we talk about every week, I'm thrilled that I'm always supposedly on the sharp side, and it gets me nowhere this year.
Right, especially last Sunday, you got nowhere.
Yeah, that's been the case. Well, we'll see. That one right now, again, as we do this midweek, Steelers favored by 2.5. Now the Sunday night game, which is by any measure the marquee matchup of this week in the NFL, Week 10, and that's the Seahawks at the Patriots. The Seahawks and Patriots, of course, played that famous Super Bowl game just a few years back where Russell Wilson threw the pick from 1 yard out, sealing the deal for the Patriots. Now you have a Seahawks team that's on short rest, having beaten the Bills on Monday night, and you have a Patriots team that is coming off the bye on extra rest here. Patriots at home, Patriots favored by 7.5. 7.5.
Right.
You're going to need a lot. You're going to need the Seahawks big here, aren't you?
We're going to need the Seahawks really big. I mean, the short rest and the bye week is going to factor in hard. Any sharp is going to play, I think, the combination on the Patriots on that. If it dips down to 7, I think we're going to see sharp money right away. The good news is it's not in Seahawks home field, so the officiating should be okay, because the officiating in Seattle goes berserk for some reason.
What are you talking about, Jay?
So hopefully the
It's
officials
clearly not roughing the kicker.
Yeah, hopefully the officials are on their game in New England as opposed to the ones they had in Seattle last week. But yeah, I think we're going to need the Seahawks here. The odd thing is that we've already seen a little support from a few players betting the Seahawks, which caught me off guard, but not enough off guard to lower the number, that's for sure.
What do you say to the guy who's coming into town, or the gal who's coming into town to Vegas this weekend, either to the Mirage or another MGM Resorts property, and they say, this is easy. All I got to do is play Alabama when they play on the money line, just play the Patriots on the money line. It's that easy. What do you say to them?
Keep betting.
Keep betting.
Keep betting.
Eventually you're going to get them.
Eventually, yeah, because you got to win 4 games or 5 games if you're laying, $4 or $5 on the money line. You lose one, that wipes out 4 or 5, unit wins. So I'm willing to book that for the long term. I mean, we had a guy that I was telling you about earlier, that kept betting UConn in the national basketball tournament a couple years ago, doubling up.
Wow.
He actually was a very successful story. He walked away with nearly $500,000 of my money.
And that was plus money every
time.
time.
That was plus money. You don't hear many of those stories, though. Yeah. I mean, at some point, a team is going to, run into a team, like you said, play down to the level of their competition, maybe, and maybe not as many people can play ill or injured like I'm, performing right now today, as well as they should. So,
Jay, if I haven't given you
it's
credit
a tough
yet,
season.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't gotten the best of them yet, though, doing that.
Right.
Alabama and New England, although New England had the 1 week, but that was pre-Tom Brady, so don't know if that counts. So that's a strategy.
How does Alabama cover when it's 0-0 going into the fourth quarter and they're laying 7.5?
That's right.
That's a little disheartening for a bookie.
Gotta feel for LSU bettors and that, and I would say feel for the bookie, but you don't have to feel for the bookie. All right. College pro football, anything you want to bet each and every week. Again, come down to Mirage, say hi to Jay. Jay will come from out from behind the counter. He'll say hi to you.
Absolutely.
Sure, sick or not, just don't touch him if he's sick. And feel free to do it not only at the Mirage, but anywhere up and down the strip at an MGM Resorts property. We love the Mirage because of all the beautiful couches.
Oh yeah, no, it's a fantastic place for fans to come and watch the games. And it's always, for me, if I'm not paying attention to the screen in the back, they let me know out here what's going on, because the roar of the crowd reverberates back in my office.
Yes.
And I always go, well, that can't be good for us. But it's a fun environment, really exciting. Yeah, come down and see me. I'll come out and say hi. I'll buy you a drink. I'll give you a drink ticket if you come and say you saw me on Behind the Book.
Our picks of the week, Jay. It's time before we get into our terms.
Okay.
What's your call this week?
The go against play of the week.
Yes. Fade away.
I actually think I'm on your side. I like the Steelers -2.5. Especially if this number drops down even further.
Yeah.
If the public really comes in on the Cowboys and you can get this under 1, at pick, that would be unbelievable. But yeah, I think Steelers at home, coming off of an embarrassment to an arch rival, and with getting Big Ben back, probably fully healthy, 1 week back, he might not have been completely Big Ben, but we'll see. The rookies have a tall task here.
Well, you took my pick, Jay. So thanks,
Okay.
first of all. Secondly, I'm going to do the squarest thing humanly possible. Cardinals -13.5 against the Niners. You will not make money long-term doing this in the NFL, I promise you, but the Niners are so bad, and they're going into such a tough environment, I'm laying the 13.5.
That's not quite the squarest thing. It could have been on the road.
That's true.
If it was on the road, it would have been a little bit square.
Still square. Terms, you ready?
Yes.
All right, for those who may not know some of this terminology we're using, let's start. Spread, very quickly.
It's just a number that we assign a point spread. It's what they have to win by.
Right. In football, basketball, point spread betting here in the U.S. Cover.
If you play within the spread.
That's right. Well,
on your selection.
Correct. So if you're a 7-point favorite, you cover if you win by more than 7.
Yep, 8 or more.
That's right. I'm sorry if I...
Push.
That's correct. Push would be 7. Dog.
Dog, the underdog.
The underdog.
Pretty simple.
Okay. Juice.
Juice. Another term for the VIG. When you have to bet 11 to 10, that's the juice. That's the VIG that the bookie operates on, hopes to squeak out a little bit of profit.
-110 to win 100, that 10 is the juice.
Right.
The
you
VIG.
talk about reduced juice,
Right.
being even money a lot of times.
The hook. What's a hook? I just said hook.
The hook, a half point.
Right.
If it's 6 and we go to 6.5, you call it, putting on the hook.
I also mentioned fade.
Fade, right. That's when guys suck like us.
And you go against us.
You go against us. You want to fade their action.
You fade us. Here's a great one. Sharp versus square. Can I try this one?
Absolutely.
People use that very haphazardly as sharp bettors. They intermingle it with pro bettors, and square bettors tends to be the public bettor. But really, what a sharp bettor is judged on is the rate at which they beat the closing line over a long term.
Right. And being a square isn't necessarily, like everybody thinks it's derogatory. It's not derogatory. It's just you're not a professional gambler. You do this as a recreational sort of thing, and you maybe don't delve into it as deep as your average player. But a square can easily beat the book. I'm more afraid of squares than I am of sharps.
Really?
Because I can't control squares. Squares play parlays a little bit more. They're the ones that hurt us because they'll put together a 3 or 4 team parlay, and now I'm paying him 6-1 and 10-1 versus even money to most squares.
That's football specific, though, isn't it? In baseball, you're probably more
Basketball.
Or in baseball, you're more scared of sharp
Yeah,
bettors?
but you control that with the limit wagers, and there's a lot of parlay money that goes into it as well.
Okay, final 3. Exposure. This is about the bookmaker.
Exposure, yeah, that's our position. So I had a lot of exposure on the Cowboys versus Cleveland last week, and I couldn't buy a wager on Cleveland. I take that back. I was the only 7.5 out there, and the sharps did come in and take plus 7.5 right at game time. Unfortunately, they kicked the ball before I could take more money for my case.
You're trying to limit your exposure.
Absolutely.
Exposure is liability.
That's the whole key to bookmaking, really.
Yep.
It's putting up the number is easy. Limiting and your exposure and managing the money and your wins and losses is the hard part.
How about press? What's press?
Press is when you're running hot and you want to press your bet up. That's a good thing usually.
And finally, steam. We hear that a lot.
Yeah, steam. You're the steam.
Steam.
When someone comes out in the morning and says, I like the Dodgers at minus 135 and say it should be minus $1.50,
Yeah.
then the steam is going to move it from 35 to $1.50.
Yeah, so
that's the move.
A great deal of money wagered on one side in one shot.
Right.
That will move the line. All right. Jay Rude, MGM Resorts International VP of Racing Sportsbook. I'm Gil Alexander, host of the Beating the Book podcast. This is Behind the Book, live from the Mirage. Good luck with your Week 10 NFL bets and in college football. Hope to see you down here in Vegas.